According to the law on accounting, anyone can do the bookkeeping for your company. Many people take advantage of this. Most foreign accountants, as well as some Russian ones, learned accounting back in their home countries, and after coming to Montenegro, someone showed them the main differences, and under the slogan accounting is the same everywhere in the world, they started working. At the same time, they do not have a recognized Montenegrin certificate. Recently, the head of the Association of Accounting Agencies of Montenegro expressed her outrage about this, accusing Russians that many of them, after coming to Montenegro, start working as accountants, often without knowing the official language of the country and without having the necessary knowledge, that is, without any training in Montenegro. She's absolutely right. This problem really does exist. She just forgot to mention that the local accountants are no better. Most of them also do not have a nationally recognized certificate and in fact are self-taught. Most often such people get internships at large accounting firms where they are trained, and after about 6 months of practice they become more or less decent accountants. Considering that modern software does a lot of the work for people and nowadays no one reconciles balances by hand, such an accountant, even without a broad theoretical background, can quite adequately work and handle a large volume of tasks. There are no official statistics on this issue, but I am sure that most accountants working in Montenegro, both locals and foreigners, do not have a certificate recognized in Montenegro. So what is the difference between a licensed accountant and one who has not undergone training in Montenegro and does not have a certificate? I'll explain now. Is there any point in specifically looking for an accountant who definitely has a certificate obtained from accredited courses? Accredited courses are those that have a license from the Ministry of Education of Montenegro, conduct training according to a program approved by the ministry, and issue certificates stating that they are based on a specific license from the Ministry of Education. Is it worth looking for such a certified accountant, or should you just hire the first one you find as long as they're cheaper? I believe that this is absolutely necessary, and now I'll explain why. First, let me point out that I have something to compare with, since in addition to my Montenegrin certificate, I also have 2 European certificates, as well as a diploma from Russian courses, plus a degree in higher economic education. You saw some of these documents on the slide. I didn't put all of them up because, for example, the diploma from the Russian courses, I haven't even seen it in about 10 years. Today I actually took it out of the cabinet, thought about putting it up, looked at it, and well, it was issued a long time ago. I studied in Russia so many years ago, I can't even remember when. It looked so unimpressive that I decided it would just be embarrassing to hang it up anywhere. So the thing is, I have nothing to compare it to because I've received a lot of diplomas in 3 different countries. So I can compare with Europe, Russia and Montenegro. In Russian Europe, we were taught exclusively accounting. In Montenegro, they teach not only accounting, but also law, not all areas of law, but specifically those that relate to accounting. Students have to study quite a large number of subjects. You can see them on the screen. These are subjects both directly related to accounting and to law, jurisprudence. Also, in addition to having a large number of subjects on law, which is somewhat unusual for this discipline, in Montenegro, a large volume of material is given for independent study, approximately 1,500 pages of various laws. And codes of rules which you analyze in your free time from lectures. 1,500 pages is just my visual estimate. Naturally, I didn't count all of them page by page. And finally, there are 9 quite difficult exams to take. I should mention that less than half of the students passed the exam. Candidates who did not pass the exams are allowed to retake them, but you can only retake each exam once. And this is despite the fact that most of the candidates were already experienced accountants who had been working somewhere for a long time and only came to study in order to get the certificate, not even for the knowledge, but just for the certificate. Nevertheless, their experience did not help them successfully pass these exams. By the way, very few people managed to improve their results on the retake. In Europe and Russia, where I studied, the exams were much easier. Everyone passed them. Basically, the principle there was probably something like this. If you paid for the course, then you should get the certificate. In Montenegro, it's completely different. Yes, you pay for the course, but no one is obligated to pass you on the exam. You really have to pass it yourself. and the exam is quite difficult. In other words, it's simply impossible to just attend the lectures and pass the exam. You have to prepare seriously. A lot of foreigners fail the exams. By the way, it wasn't just Russians, there were foreigners from other countries as well. You know, it's hard to pass exams when you're not confident in your language skills and you come to the exam with a Russian-Serbian dictionary in your hand. So the main differences of Montenegrin courses are as follows. A large amount of legal material, a significant volume of independent work, a lot of exams, and high standards for passing them. By the way, when I first enrolled in the courses, I immediately had a question. Why are there so many law-related subjects in the first place? What are you even doing? Who designed this curriculum? I came here to study accounting. Why are you giving me this kind of extensive list of law subjects that I have to pass? The amount of material for independent study is about 1500 pages, plus there are also lectures on law. All of this has to be learned. Why do I need this? And only later did I realize that in fact they did everything right, that this knowledge is truly necessary. Why? I'll explain now with two examples. Here's the first example. A client once came to me and said, I bought a passenger car and I want to get a VAT refund. Please refund it to me. I explained to him that in this case the VAT cannot be refunded. That is, we're talking about input VAT. When you make a purchase, you have input VAT. If a company is a VAT payer, then this input VAT can either be offset against the amount of unpaid profit, or if you don't have any output VAT, you can request a cash refund from the budget. I told him that in this case it's impossible because the VAT law states that VAT on the purchase of a passenger car is not refundable, except for a number of exceptions specified in the law. For example, if the car is used in a rental car business or as a taxi, accordingly, you cannot get a VAT refund. He says, but I have a friend whose accountant got it refunded. So, you see, his friend didn't know about this law and just automatically always refunds VAT. Now, here's some input VAT, I'll just refund it as well. That's it. Accordingly, to avoid such situations and not put someone at risk of a possible fine, and fines in Montenegro are quite substantial, you need to know the law. Second example. Someone approached me with a question. Can a company pay for a number of expenses for its founder that are not related to the company's activities? For example, apartment rent and some other things. Well, the answer is obvious. No, it cannot. This is clearly stated in the law. During further conversation, it turned out that this person had asked 6 accountants this question Russian once, since he is Russian and only speaks Russian. So, naturally, he asked Russian-speaking accountants. 3 of them, including myself, answered the same way I did, no, you can't. And 3 said, yes, you can. To avoid this kind of double interpretation of the law, that's exactly why legal subjects are needed. You need to know the laws. Maybe you don't know every word by heart, but at the very least you'll have the thought, there was something about this, I should look up this law and check how it applies to this situation. As for the education itself in Montenegro, I have to say that everything here is standard. I wouldn't say it was anything super impressive, at least when it comes to the lectures themselves. It all depends on the instructor. Some instructors are truly gifted and their explanations are excellent. Some, to be honest, I didn't really like. With some lectures, I had to rewatch them twice because the way they mumbled under their breath, I honestly couldn't understand anything the first time due to the quality of the teaching. But in Montenegro, unlike other places where I studied again, in Europe or in Russia, there is one difference. After the lectures, you'll have a bunch of difficult exams to prepare for. So, regardless of whether the material was explained well or poorly, if you understood it during the lecture, great, good for you, it'll be easier for you to learn that lecture. If you didn't understand it, then you have to figure it out on your own. Later, you'll have to study this material again, otherwise you simply won't pass the exams. This is a big difference. In Russia, for example, if you didn't understand something you were taught, you could just ignore it. Here, it's highly discouraged to ignore things. So, as a result, those who attend Montenegrin courses and receive a certificate know the program completely. The same can't be said about those who studied in Russia or elsewhere. Well, when I say elsewhere, I'm generalizing. Of course, there are probably excellent courses in Europe and many other countries as well. I haven't attended all of them, so I can't say for sure. But if we're comparing with the places where I studied, then the difference here is really significant. Again, I'm talking about the difficulty of passing the exams. Accordingly, if you want to find a truly competent specialist, you should choose an accountant who studied in Montenegro and holds a local certificate. There are also some extra perks. It's not enough just to get the certificate, you have to maintain your status. To do this, all certified accountants are required to undergo annual retraining, which includes at least 20 hours of webinars every year throughout their entire professional career. The webinars are organized by the center that issued the certificate. During the webinars, all the changes that have occurred over the year are reviewed. There are always some laws changing. And in addition, you are also required to do independent study, for which you purchase self-study materials from the same center. They publish 2 journals. Well, I'm not even sure what to call them exactly, journals, academic guides, or something else. Each issue is quite thick, about 150 pages. There are 4 issues per year. So how much is that? Well, that's about 1,200 pages a year that you need to buy from them, and accordingly you are supposed to study. Of course, you could choose not to study them, you could just throw them away, but if you've bought them, why not read them? By the way, it's actually very interesting reading. Based on this material, I've made quite a few videos for the channel and written some articles on my website. As a result, a person who has received certification knows all aspects of accounting very well as the laws and sets of rules related to accounting, and updates their knowledge every year. I can't say the same about someone who hasn't studied in Montenegro. Accordingly, in my opinion, the choice between a certified and a non-certified accountant is basically obvious. Moreover, I would say that knowledge of the laws is in fact even more important than knowledge of accounting itself. I only realized this later, not right away. At first, I was always complaining about why they made the program like this, why I had to study so much law. But then I realized that, as it turns out, the laws are more important. Why? Because when it comes to actual accounting tasks like preparing balance sheets, making adjustments, or other things, a lot of it is done by software, and well, modern programs are very smart. They really do a lot of the work for you. In fact, in some cases, a person doesn't even play the main role, but rather a supporting one. So even if you don't know something, the program can still handle it. But knowing the laws, that's important. I gave 2 examples earlier where people actually got into trouble simply because their accountants didn't know the laws. So you really do need to know the laws. Friends, my name is Dimitri. You can reach out to me with questions about accounting, about life in the country, or about immigration. All my contact information is in the description for this video. Goodbye, everyone.